Welcome to the second installment of Bronze Age Immorality. This presentation will consist of selected verses from the Holy Bible, which endorse extreme outlandish violence, injustice, misogyny, and sheer immorality. While some of these verses may be brought up in Sunday school or weekly church service, I'm fairly certain that there will be some that haven't. There will be a new structure to the framework of this series. Thanks to a good friend of mine, shoutouts to David Dupree, it was recommended to take verses from every book of the Bible and elaborate upon it like a preacher does when he conjures up his weekly sermon. Thanks for the idea. Now let's dive into the falsely universal supposed good book. Our initial verse can be found in Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and conception. In thy sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. God enhances the suffering of Eve and all her descendants, and wants women to subject themselves to their husband. This verse is the justification among many passages in the Bible that initiated the misogyny of women. Eve didn't directly disobey God. The magic-talking serpent beguiled her, which God curses to crawl upon his belly and eat dust. God lies about Adam's fate to surely die if he ate from the tree of knowledge. However, later on in the Bible, Adam is said to live for a whopping 930 years. Any decent moral woman today will not submit to a man regardless of who he is because of this ancient book, and I'm sure this book doesn't have anything to do with divine inspiration. It's hard to fathom that this Harry Potter-like book wasn't inspired by primitive, tyrant, misogynistic sadomasochistics who wanted to enslave everyone who they presupposed inferior. Here is the second verse, which I'm 100% sure everyone has heard. Noah's Ark. It starts at Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. God wants to intentionally murder every human, beast, fowl of the air, and creeping thing upon the ground by means of flooding the planet because the human imagination is evil. The supposed just and righteous Noah, which is absolutely laughable considering he is found naked and drunk parading around his sons, has the task upon him to build a wooden ship which modern day shipwrights couldn't build. There are millions of species known on this planet, and there are still more species being discovered today. Ever wonder how did all the animals, insects, and birds get to the ark? What did they eat on board? And how did Noah and the crew keep the lions and other carnivores from eating all the other animals, thus causing extinction? In this extremely flawed story, many people, myself included, may ask oneself, how did Noah and his family build this 450-foot wooden ship? Shipwrights in the 1900s, who were said to be the best shipwrights in the world, built a wooden ship called the Wyoming. The ship had encountered many hardships while in the water, such as twisting side to side, forward and back, and even inward. The ship leaked heavily, so much that it had to be pumped out periodically, and it even sank. It's illogical to think that Noah and his family could build a wooden ship, which the best shipwrights in modern times couldn't. This entire genocidal endeavor was rendered futile, considering God's omniscience, because mankind continued to have an imagination of evil, but let's act like Yahweh doesn't know this. In Genesis chapter 7, verse 17, it says the flood lasts 40 days, then contradicts at Genesis chapter 8, verse 3, which says it lasted 150 days. After about a year, the earth dried up. What on earth did the animals eat when they arrived at a post-apocalyptic barren wasteland? This story has to be one of the most confusing and disturbed stories I've ever read in the Bible, and the next story won't do it any justice. The next verse can be found in Genesis chapter 19, verses 5 through 8. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after them, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. God plans on aerating the city of Sodom. God and Abraham have a talk about who is going to be spared in the previous verses. First, Abraham asks if 50 people can be spared all the way down to 10, and then asks will God smite the good ones among the wicked. Angels are visiting the city of Sodom and are staying over at Lot's place when a perverted mob sees the angels and demands sex with them. Lot says, "Oh, hell no, but you could take my 2 virgin daughters and do unto them that is good in your eyes." Lot gives up his virgin daughters to save 2 Tinkerbells, whom he don't know, to be gang raped on his porch. This is the idiot God wants to spare? Later in Genesis chapter 19 verses 24, God obliterates Sodom and Gomorrah with brimstone and fire, and morphs Lot's unknown wife into a pillar of salt because she looked back at the mass destruction, mayhem, and carnage. I'm fairly sure there were innocent women and children and Lot's son-in-law in the city who were among the crossfire, and it didn't seem to stop God's itchy trigger finger. Later, Lot and his 2 daughters camp out in a cave, and the daughters have a little girl chat saying, "There is not enough men in the earth to come into us." So they contemplated on getting their father drunk and have sex with him, and they both have conceived children from their father. This is the guy God sought as righteous? Seriously? The next verse can be found in Genesis chapter 38 verses 2 through 3. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Surah. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Verse 7 says, "And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him." Judah had sex with a Canaanite woman who bare 2 sons, who are named and Onan. The first thing that comes to my mind is why are random women being snatched up and randomly raped? The son which is conceived by this act, God saw as wicked and murders the infant. How is it in any way fair to punish the innocent to take justice for the guilty? Killing infants is in no shape, form, or fashion a just act, which reveals this fictional being to be a maniacal, psychotic pederast. Can you imagine the kids' reaction and classmates if a teacher actually brought up this verse at a weekly church school service? Sam Harris once said that these stories will embarrass the most ambitious psychopaths in history, which is why I honestly think nobody should take this book seriously. Lastly, we have Genesis chapter 24, verse 2. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by the Lord, the God of heaven, and the God of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. Abraham asked his oldest servant to put his hand under his thigh to hold his testicles and swear. What is up with the Bible and these peculiar situations and stories? I've seen verses similar to this in the Bible, and I assumed it was like a euphemism of some sort, like we raise our right hand in a court of law to swear to tell the truth. In the Bible, we are expected to believe these obscure tales in which a penis-holding euphemism is undergoing just to ensure confidence of marital status. One could argue that it's a product of the time, culture, and societal coalition, and we can clearly see how morality has evolved from ancient fairy tales to a just, upstanding, and societal order. In conclusion, the Bible is clearly written by a group of infallible men. The stories in the Bible are embellished stories from men who possess an overworked imagination and lackluster education due to humanity's understanding of reality. Our evolved sentient cognitions empowers us to be completely rational and aware of our knowledge of evidence of normal occurrences. Religion dilutes our reasoning, logicality, and perception of what is known as reality, and in most cases people who are less educated acutely rely on religion. People, especially blacks, find it completely shocking to see another black man such as myself not associated to any type of religion. Speaking of black people, we have the most intense connection with religion and set religion to the highest degree in our standards for knowledge. Blacks are rigorously affected, or should I say infected, by the religious high and are desensitized by it so much that they couldn't see themselves live without it. Believers believe in belief and are self-motivated by wish fulfillment, hope, and promises, not by logic, rationale, and reasoning. Believing something doesn't change reality. Religion, from my point of view, or outside of the box, rationalizes as a drug to escape reality and to not be responsible to reason properly. The inherent psychological enslavement of religion is at its maximum oppressive state and probably will never be accommodated. I'm going to call it modern-day slavery. Our free thought has been locked away inside the penitentiary of illogicality, and it's the will of free thinkers and secularists to tally back human intuition and intelligence. Thanks for watching Bronze Age Immorality 2. Please share, subscribe, and like this video if you find it informative. If you are interested in more of my content, please be sure to check out my previous presentations.